What's up, brother?
Not much, guys. What's going on? Today we are back for day two of this Keep Riding Summit, keeping people entertained, and we have
All
the
right.
wonderful Diaa and Rachel from Ventum.
Hey,
Um,
guys. How's everybody doing?
Doing great. Trying to keep everything positive and moving forward. And first thing I noticed when this started was that you were going a little bit crazy by yourself, and all of a
I
sudden you had a quarantine buddy. You want to talk a little bit about that?
absolutely.
Talk about why you got quarantined.
Well,
Just
the reason I got quarantined is I was in Switzerland when this everything started hitting, and it was really, really bad. And when I came, so I was actually able to get back on the last flight from Switzerland to JFK. Literally, last flight.
Wow.
It was the Delta flight, and that flight was never even scheduled. It was these like volunteers from the New York from JFK Delta crew flew the plane down empty to Zurich and picked up all the remaining Delta employees that were in Zurich, and I just happened to get on it. So it was me and like 300 Delta employees, and like it was like the craziest flight because
did
it
they
was
give you
so
a scarf to wear?
no, and they sort of, but yeah, so like the crazy thing was that like it was such an unusual flight. You know what I mean? Like just from the tone of the captain and the people and everybody's mingling and talking, and it's like like the captain would get on. It's like, hey guys, we're almost there. I know we're going like this is a 28-hour day for us, but we're like like things that you don't usually hear over a PA. I'm like, oh, this is strange. And then, but anyway, I'm super glad I landed in JFK. I made my connection and got back here, and Barrett Brandon, who's our CFO, who essentially pretty much runs me. I don't know why I'm the CEO, but I feel like I've got no pull. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you were in a high risk country." So this is before the quarantine started happening, right?
Yeah.
Like the mandate, the state or county, regional mandated quarantines. And he's like, "Okay, well, you're gonna quarantine for 14 days because you're in a high risk country." And I was like, "All right, fine." And fast forward hour 3. I am sitting here going mental. And you have to understand, too, I'm coming from Switzerland, right? Which I was having this much fun, right? Because my brother was getting engaged. We're skiing in Zermatt. We're heli skiing. And I come to, a very empty, quiet house. So that's a big wedge. That's a big step down, right? There's no transitory social experience in between those two. And so it hit me really hard at hour 3. And I called Barrett, and I was like, Barrett, you've got 2 choices. I'm either coming in or you're sending somebody to quarantine for 14 days.
I think the third option was that you were going to go to Vegas, and we were just worried about him running.
Yeah, that's true. That was an option.
And I came in from like the exact opposite background. I mean, I had been on some crazy travel. I had been to New York City, and I finally got home. And 2 days later, I was down for the count. I mean, I woke up at 5 a.m. to go swim, skipped practice. Within 3 hours, I was in bed, like shaking, chills, coughing, everything. And Barrett again was like, yeah, don't come near us. We don't want to see you. And so people were dropping off groceries at my little basement apartment. And I was left there for 6 days. And I'm an extrovert. Like I go to events, I'm jumping around. I need to talk to people. And I'm alone in my little 3-bedroom house. I have a couch. I have no other furniture. And I had to get tested. I had to sit on a waiting line. They sent me to Park City. They sent me down to a sketchy garage. Like I got the swabs, the nose, everything.
Oh.
And it came back, yeah. It came back negative, which was great. It means that like, oh, okay, you don't have to tell everybody and your mother that you were sick. You just had the flu. So I got my testing back the night that Diaa got home. The next morning, I'm waking up. I'm about to go into the office for the first time in a week. I'm about to see people. I'm so I can go grocery shopping. And an earthquake hits.
No joke.
It is
Utah.
7 in the morning, and everything is shaking.
Yep.
And that's about the time Diaa calls me, and I was like, the world is ending.
So fast forward a month, and here we are.
There you are.
Together.
So you're still quarantine buddies. Did you think it was going to last a month? I didn't.
I didn't.
When I first started.
And we have at least another 3 weeks.
Yeah, another 3 weeks to a month. So crazy stuff.
Yeah, but at least have somebody. We have each other. We can do like workouts. Yeah. I can't imagine being by myself for a month. I mean, that sounds like the biggest torture ever.
I mean, honestly, I should have run for the hills as soon as we started doing multiple sanctuary trainer rides.
Yeah, in a week. Yeah, yeah. But that's the way to do it this time, right?
That's right. Well, you guys got the bikes to do it. Let's talk a little bit about bikes. What's going on at Ventum these days? We're both doing some cool stuff with teams this year. You guys have your own team that you're firing up.
We postpone that a little bit just because it doesn't make sense to fire up the team now when there are events. So, you know,
right.
Like team, but don't get together. Doesn't sound
exactly
like a team. But there's lots going on. So, you know, right now what we're focusing on is we just launched the stimulus package, the Ventum stimulus package, which essentially if you buy any Ventum road or tri bike, we send you a free smart trainer. Yeah, and then after 30 days, we send you a stimulus check of 10% of the value of whatever you paid, right? So if you bought a $7,000 bike, you're gonna get a free trainer, and then 30 days later, you're gonna get a check from Ventum for $700. And it can work in conjunction with financing, which is kind of cool because our financing company right now is running a promotion that you don't pay for the first 30 days. So your first payment is until 60 days from when you purchase. So you could literally buy the bike, finance it, get the bike, get the free trainer. 30 days later, you get a check for 10%, which you can then use for your financing payments for the next 3 to 6 months. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, like, look, we're trying to tackle several things. One is, you know, in most places you can't even ride outside, right? So you have to stay inside. So that's where the trainer comes in. And then, you know, everybody's hurting, including us. Like, I'd be lying if I said we were. Like, people would look at me, oh, really? You're not hurting? No. Yeah, well, of course we're hurting big time, right? I mean, just like every other small business. But everybody else is too. So we were trying to think of a way, like, how do we get people to be able to work out right now, right?
Yeah.
And not put a financial strain on them, because a lot of people have been laid off. A lot of people have this uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
And then we just launched this week, and it's been very well received. And I think one of the competitive advantages that we have, say over like a Peloton or I don't know, stationary bike.
It's just trash Peloton for a hot second.
Yeah, right. No, Peloton's a great company. I love them. But the advantage that we have is when this is all said and done, you've got a bike to ride outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I'm really proud of the team, and I can't take the credit for it, that they came out with a great program that addresses a lot of the concerns that we're having right now.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's a good idea.
We're pushing pretty hard on. And we'll see, you know, we'll see. Then we have some other, I mean, look, 2020 was supposed to be a really big year for us. Probably bigger. I will say, I have to be a little careful, right? It would have been the biggest year for us in terms of product and development and sales. And we had some really interesting stuff. And I will talk, and we had to pivot, right? And we had to push some back. And, you know, but I will talk about one thing, because we're talking about bikes, is our gravel bike. So our gravel bike is coming out. We've pushed it back a little bit just because, again, we wanted to introduce it at Dirty Kansas in May. Dirty Kansas just got pushed back to September.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the models I'm allowed to talk about is the gravel bike, and what I love about it is it's unlike any other gravel bike that's out there. It has the same manufacturing technology as the NS1, so double molds. It is going to be super light, very stiff, and it's all integrated, right? So I think we're one of the first companies to really look at aerodynamics when it comes to gravel racing, because I mean, as you know, like, these gravel races are getting longer and longer.
Yeah,
you can almost put like TT bars, right? Like little clip-ons.
Yeah,
because, you know, you've got these sections of exactly. So when you see that trend, you realize, whoa, aerodynamics are going to play a big role now, right? It's no longer this kind of like packed racing. And so we're really excited about that model. And that was going to be our next offering, and it was supposed to be out next month, but we're going to push back a little bit.
Yep.
But by August, I said, oh, well, let's just see how the world goes, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny you say that. We just launched our gravel wheel line, and
tell me.
All based on aerodynamics. You know, the big question around that was, can a gravel wheel be aerodynamic? You have these big, you know, 47C on a 650B tire or 650B wheel. can it be aerodynamic? You have these knobs, you have these different things, and what we're seeing is that over a traditional box style rim for a gravel bike, the aero advantage is the same as if you were to compare it to a road setup with a traditional rim and an aero profile. So
Wow.
aerodynamics in gravel cycling, like you're saying, is incredibly important, especially when you start looking at some of the distances these days. I mean, the Dirty Kanza XL now is 350 miles. I mean, that's a punishing.
Is it? You know why she's laughing? You want to know why she's laughing?
Why?
So, because I'm going to do it. Yeah. So this hasn't been announced yet, but essentially, it's no secret that I put on a lot of weight starting this company. Like I went from like my race weight, which was like 160, to like almost 200 pounds. And I just started losing the weight a lot, like recently. Dropped like 20 pounds.
Quarantine training camp.
Yeah. And so then, I'm still about 15 or so pounds. But one of the things that we want to do is challenge myself to do that race exactly on our new gravel bike.
We're gonna have to get you a set of these wheels because they're gonna help you over 350 miles for sure.
Yeah, please send some over. So it'll be interesting. I've never done a gravel race. I've never been on a gravel race. Does the True Bypass count? I've never.
Bypass is one to start.
I've never even been on a gravel bike.
So for the gravel bike, how are you looking at it differently than say your NS1 or your the even the Ventum 1, right? So you guys kind of went from a tri bike, right? Then you went to a road bike, and now you're going to a gravel bike. What innovations have you put into the bike from an aero perspective? Have you done any aero testing yet? And even from a geometry perspective, can you talk a little bit about it?
Good question. So it's definitely, the progression that you just described, and I hope I don't offend anyone, but it just went from like the most technical vertical to the least technical vertical. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Gravel biking is still in its early stage. It is the fastest growing segment, super important, but no one, just like triathlon 30 years ago when there was no critical mass and people were taking UCI legal frames and slapping in a TT front end and calling it a TT bike, right? Or a triathlon bike. Same thing. Gravel has been like a lot of cyclocross bikes, a lot of bikes that may not have had the greatest technology. There was no critical mass for companies of our size and bigger to really focus the R&D to make those bikes as lightweight as best as possible, right?
Yeah.
So the way I'm going to answer that is we're now trickling down our technologies from the tri and the road into the gravel bike. So I can only think of one other bike that's going to be as integrated. I mean, there's zero cabling showing, right? Which is huge, especially.
I love that. Yeah.
Especially in the front end, that's huge in terms of aerodynamics. It has very similar shapes, feeling, styling as the NS1. So, which is the road bike. So you literally, the geometry is obviously more relaxed because it is a gravel bike.
Yep.
And but the feel, like when you see it, you'll definitely see it's an offspring of the road bike, right?
Okay.
And we have all the aero data on the road bike, so we knew to a certain extent it got us a little bit ahead on our aero testing for the gravel bike because we had a baseline from the road bike that we like the lessons learned from the road bike. So that was excellent. But then the manufacturing technique, no one else in the world is doing what we're doing, and in fact, our factory was like didn't even want to make it.
Really?
They were like, this is overkill because again, like remember, gravel bike has a lower entry level when it comes to the price points of the bikes, right? You cannot charge a crazy amount, and it's rugged, it's raw, and so the manufacturing techniques that they were using are some of the cheaper manufacturing techniques.
Yeah,
but we don't want that. We don't want that. So we're using all the manufacturing techniques that we do on a super high-end road bike, which only a couple other companies use, and no one's yet to use it in gravel because it's going to bring the price up tremendously. So how are we combating that? We're just eating the margin, right? We're going to have a smaller margin.
Yeah, though to be fair, I mean, there's also something we said, like, we want to be industry leaders in this. And I think to Diaa's point of the gravel market, so far being relatively undiscovered, but right on that cusp there of making the move into high-end performance. I mean, Dirty Kansas is a great example of this. You are seeing pro athletes coming over from the road cycling industry. They're coming over from pro tour teams. They're coming over from Europe. These are guys who are going to the front of the pack and just absolutely destroying themselves to let their team leaders go.
Yeah.
Those are the guys right now that are spearheading the second wave of gravel riding.
Yeah.
As you get those athletes coming over, like they're not going to jump on a budget bike. It might be great to like play around with at the beginning. But as you get more competitive, as you get higher end and the athletes who are going to do it, that's where the masses will follow.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to be able to provide, is because I think we're going to see a huge step up in performance products once that happens, you know, really on that big tip over.
One of the best descriptions of gravel that I heard was somebody said it's kind of a Frankenstein industry at the moment, meaning that you have sort of this total hybrid of people that come to gravel. You have triathletes, you have road cyclists, you have mountain bikers, right?
Yep.
They all come with their own unique experiences and their own backgrounds, and they get there and they say, and this was probably a couple of years ago when we really first started looking at wheels, was, what do we use? Do we use a mountain bike? Do we use 650B? Do we use 700C? Do we use a road bike? Or what do we do? And so people were kind of Frankensteining these bikes together to figure out what worked, you know?
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and what I love about what you guys are doing is you took a really unique, fresh look at it, and you've said, okay, if we're going to actually design a gravel bike, not just take a road bike and call it a gravel bike, it's awesome. I mean, that technology and that development is going to advance the sport, right? You're starting to set, hey, this is the standard bike that you're supposed to use in this industry, and so
Exactly.
I think that's really cool, especially with
exciting. And then we're launching it in conjunction with our gravel race. And hopefully, you know, again, COVID-19 dependent, our gravel race was in August. There's a 40-mile race and an 80-mile race. It starts and ends right here in Heber City in Utah.
You have your own gravel race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, talk about that. That sounds fun.
Yeah. So, you know, it's unfortunately like it is slated for August. We're being a little cautious just because, again, like, you know, how many events are being canceled, and it's all going to be dependent on the local legislation if they decide we can have it or not. We're hoping it'll be right on the cusp. But yeah, I mean, look, I'll send you some info about it, but it's a 50-mile loop and an 80-mile loop, and it's a ton. I mean, it's going to be ruthless. It's not going to be easy.
Well, I mean, the idea just came from, like, I mean, everyone's like, oh, why did you move to Heber? Why did you move to Heber? And the idea to have a race is really, I think it answers that question. We were riding around, we were doing different routes, we were exploring everything. And you can look around and be like, oh, we need to do a race here. Like, that's why people would come.
And we have some of the best graveling in the country, by the way. Everybody, like, people come from all over the world to come do some gravel bikes, you know.
I've been fortunate to spend some time in Heber and Midway, and it's one of those places you get there and you're like, does this really exist here? It's mountainous. It reminds you of the Alps. It's like, I mean, you were just there. I mean, there's just so much beauty. There's so many trails. There's a lot of stuff there. So moving there makes a ton of sense to me.
Oh, I'll tell you, I went on a nice bike ride yesterday. Do you know who Taylor Fletcher is? He's a 3-time Olympian, winter.
I know the name. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So him and I went out. He took me on this loop, and it's actually, I did a little story on my Instagram and just posted it. It was probably the most beautiful ride I've been on, maybe in my life.
Wow.
No, it was incredible. It was insane. The natural beauty here, I mean, the riding here is second to none. It's second to none. So, and then we're lucky enough to be in an area, you know, talk about social distancing and whatnot. You know, we are not breaking any laws, and we go out, we don't see a single soul, right? So, like, you can be socially distant, you can be responsible. We're lucky enough to be able to do that, you know, outside, as most people can't. You know, where are you right now?
So I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, and for here, and most of the things, I mean, we've been talking all week with people, and most of the things that we're realizing is that if you are riding a bike, most places are allowing you to get out and still ride your bike. Now, there may be certain trails that are closed or certain things like that, but being on the road, you know, as long as you're riding intelligently, you're not, you know, riding in big groups and things like that, getting out is just kind of creating some sanity for people at this point.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. I will say this: the one thing that you have to be careful of when you're riding outside. First of all, we're riding solo, or, you know, at least like never group ride. Like, that's just not done. You know, the most is 2 people, 6 feet apart or more. Obviously, that's pretty easy to do on a bike. But what I would say that you have to be careful of is don't don't push it, right?
Yeah.
Because
this
is not the time to push it, because we're trying to get some safe exercise in. The last thing you want is to go down because you're, whatever reason, you're taking some risks.
Yeah.
And now you're putting an extra strain on the hospitals, your local hospitals, which are already completely strained. So
exactly.
That's something that we're being very mindful of.
Yeah. Which leads us to kind of my next question. We are spending a lot more time indoors on trainers. We're seeing a lot of people that are actually kind of pulling the bike out of the garage and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna ride. I'm gonna do this." And so, right now, with a lot of local bike shops being closed, there's not really a good spot to get a bike fit, right? So you got people that are on there. We're moving from outdoor training. We're on a trainer. We're starting to get some aches and pains. You guys, in my opinion, have done a lot of work with bike fits and certain things like that. Can you talk a little bit about bike fit and maybe just getting yourself set up if you don't have a spot to go to talk to an expert? Some resources or some tips you could mention about bike fit just to keep yourself safe while you're training.
Yeah, I would actually probably say the very first, there's a step before that, and I think the step before that is familiarizing yourself with a bike.
Yeah.
And playing around, taking this opportunity to play around with okay, what tools do I need to work on my bike? Order them in, get them in. Figure out your torque specs. Figure out, okay, if I do this, it's going to move this. When I started working in the bike industry, I was in a bike shop, and the mechanics at the shop would never work on my bikes. They would hand me the tools and say, "Figure it out, and we'll show you what you did wrong." To be fair, they no longer let me do that. But no, but this is also, I think, before you can go in and say, "Okay, I'm going to start working on my fit and doing all this," take the time to really familiarize yourself with, okay, I know that I might want to move my seat post. So how do I change the seat post height? What is the torque spec I'll need? How does this tool work? And I think the more you can watch the YouTube videos and educate yourself on that, you'll naturally get led into, oh, this is the style of riding I want to be doing. This is the type of setup I want to have. Here might be some upgrades I want to look at in the future. So number one is, become best friends with your bike, not just riding it, but really knowing about it, knowing the different parts, taking anatomy quizzes if that's what it takes. From there, like I said, you should be able to really find your bike identification.
Yeah.
What kind of rider do you want to be? Do you only see yourself riding on a trainer indoors on Zwift, in which case you might want a little more comfortable of a setup? Do you see yourself going outside? Do you see yourself doing races? That's kind of the next step. What I'll say from there is as long as you're comfortable, having familiarized yourself with the tools, that's when you should start playing around with the different setups. So most people have kind of a baseline, but maybe you've changed over the past few years that your bike has sat in your garage.
Yeah.
And there's
an upgrade to a Ventum, right? There you go.
And if that's the case, then we'll send you the measurements and we'll let you know what size you need.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I would say, just to add to what Rachel said, the beauty about it too is that we work with our customers very closely. We have fit calculators. We know these bikes inside and out. We get body measurements. And so if somebody's unsure about their fit, we are extremely knowledgeable when it comes to our bikes, every bike. And so we're able to really guide them. And the beauty about it too is our fulfillment team and our technicians really have the specs of pretty much every bike out there in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. So we're able to make adjustments on the fly. What do I mean by that? You may have a Madone from this year. Well, we know that year that top tube is a little bit longer, so we're gonna move them down, move them up a size. And they're gonna be like, wait, but I've never been on that size. I'm always a 56. Why'd you put me on a 58? So those kind of conversations we will have with our customers, so that we always get it right. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, look, we get it right 99. I can't remember when we get it wrong, but the beauty about it from doing it with us is that if we do get it wrong, guess what? You're getting a new bike, right?
Yeah.
Going to your traditional fitters. So oh, well, it's the bike store that sold you the wrong size. That's not my fault. And then you go to the bikes, you know what I mean? And everybody's pointing fingers at each other, and no one's and then you're riding the wrong size bike. Yeah. If we ever did make a mistake, we stand by our customer service. It's great, you get a brand new bike, and we'll figure out what to do with the old one.
And the other side of that is, we've actually, as a direct-to-consumer brand, we understand, hey, we have to look at all these measurements. We have to be able to walk you through grabbing those measurements so we can help with the recommendations. But something I'd say that we do very well is our packaging and shipping, and especially in a time like right now where people can't get into a bike shop to get their bikes work on, they can't get in with a fitter, they can't do all those things, is we actually take that information and we're able to pre-set up your bike and ship it to you mostly assembled. What do I mean by that? Is we're going to go through the whole fit process with you. We're going to ask you to grab measurements. We're going to look at pictures of your setup. You're going to tell me, you know, oh, what injuries have you had in the past year? What are you feeling when you're riding for longer periods of time? Oh, you dropped your saddle, you played with your stem, you did all of these things. Let's take that into account. And then what we do is once we place the order, and especially for the NS1 build, is our bike arrives to you 98% assembled. So your bike is fully built up in the warehouse. We put on your handlebar width, your stem length, because again, we've taken into account all of these frame geometry differences. Seat post trimmed so that you can get in, still play around with it. It's not going to be perfect because you always want to have the room to make adjustments and continue to play with it. But our goal is to be able to get all of your information, you know, help you make the right choice. And then we're going to send you your bike so that you can plug in the Di2, put in your seat post, throw on the wheels, and go ride.
I mean, from the NS1 box, from unpacking it to riding is less than 10 minutes.
I'm a mechanical guy and I love building things, but I've never complained when someone's built a bike for me, ever.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I mean, everything it's on. Even your chain is on, right? Like you literally don't.
Handlebars are on. Like your handlebars aren't even taken off.
I mean, we have the biggest box in the market because of it. So, you know, shipping can be a little pricey for us. But I mean, just the consumer experience is fantastic.
Excellent. I love that. I think another thing that's good too to mention is that people that are starting to ride a bit more, if we're looking into this sort of stuff, is because there is so much boredom and not much to do, to take it probably slow in the beginning, right? Like it's really easy to say, hey, I got a new bike and this new trainer, and I'm gonna ride 3 hours a day because I got nothing else to do. Well,
right. Yeah.
That's probably going to end up with some trouble. So taking it easy, taking it slow. We've actually got a coach coming on next week. We're going to talk about some training plans and some certain things like that, but it would be a perfect fit to do that. So
yeah. And I'll tell you this, like for the starter up to, but like for trainers specifically, there's a few things that you just, besides the fit, that you got to remember, like get off that saddle, right? When we're outside, we're off that saddle a lot more often than when we're inside. And so you can just sit in this one spot, and that's not that great for you. Also with your hands, right? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, right? And so you can, you know, we've done 4 centuries on trainers recently. And, you know, if you forget to move around a little bit, get your hands going. Yes, sometimes I don't get up for an hour. And right? And that's not, you know, that's not how we ride. So yeah, so make sure, you know, because that can be a very uncomfortable ride very quickly.
And those are the important parts there, right? Like where your hands hit, where your bum hits, and where your feet hit. And once you have all of those where you're very conscious of where they are, like that's how you start to make the adjustments.
Yeah, and saddles and certain things like that, they're also personal, right? So it's
Oh, so personal.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's something I would never recommend as a saddle, ever.
Yeah.
I've been through 12 saddles until I found the saddle that works for me. And that's the one I'm sticking to for the rest of my life until they like discontinue
it. It's amazing. I went from we did a century ride one day. So I sat on my bike on a trainer. I'm sitting there on my perfect setup, and this is the saddle I literally take from bike to bike to bike. And I was amazing. Got off, no problems. The next day, I was helping out with a quick photo shoot, and I was, you know, jumping on a bike, wasn't my setup, wasn't my saddle, and I rode for 36 minutes. And I was done. I mean, I was.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a good point, because I think novices and people that are just getting into the sport need to know that.
Yeah.
Because the chances are you will have bad experiences initially until you get the right saddle.
Yeah.
Right? And so don't give up, right? Because what happens, like, oh my God, how do people sit on here for 5 hours? This is insane. I can't even sit here for 10 minutes. We were all there.
Yeah.
You know, when you do find that right saddle,
I think that was one of my favorite stories very early on with Ventum. We had somebody who purchased a bike and they got it and they were like, I don't know if I can ride this. I don't know if I can keep this. And we said, hold on a second. Like, have you gone and gotten a fit? And they said, oh, I have one scheduled for next week, but I went out riding this week. And it's okay. Just, you know, we have a 30-day guarantee program. Like, if it's not the right bike for you, if you're not happy with it, we'll send you a shipping label and you'll send it back. But do me a favor, go and see this fitter first. They went, they saw the fitter, they told them everything. The next day I get an email from this person and they just go, "This is the best bike I've ever ridden."
Yeah.
Thank you. What did they do? Switch on my saddle and change my cleats.
It's so crazy, and I understand where you go. Yeah, right. New cleats and new saddle. But
Yeah.
I sat on the saddle. It was a bad one for me, and I sat on it, and I was like, "Why? Why would anybody choose to do this to themselves? This makes no sense."
Nope.
So yeah, I totally get it. That's really cool that you guys do that. And now that you have such a specific fit program, that's really tailoring to people to help them right out of the box understand that. So that's good.
Wow.
That's awesome. Well, listen, guys, I really appreciate your time here. I think that this has been very helpful, just to talk, just to keep people motivated, keep them out riding. You guys got a really cool program with this stimulus and the trainer. I think that's great. If anybody wants to get in touch with you guys, obviously Ventum.com, and then, or is it Ventum? What is it? Ventum, VentumRacing.com. Yeah. And then if they want to get in touch with you, I'm sure they can find all the contact on there because you guys are always great to chat with. So
absolutely
excellent.
Great to speak with you, man.
Yeah, man, always. And let's connect on this big gravel race of yours. I got to see you out there doing something fun. So let's.
You got it.
For sure.
If I can take some time, I'm going to do that for you.
Love
That'd
it.
be amazing.
All right, guys. We will.
All right.
No,
All right. Bye.
Wicked.
All right, my bro.
All right.
Hey, thanks for this, man.
Hey, man, anything we can do to help at this point, man. We're all trying to get through this crazy shit. So I'm going to be editing videos, all these, and then next week I'm going to be trying to put basically a site together.
Yeah.
That will host all of these different videos, and it's going to be like, it's like an industry summit, so people can just download it over the next several months. So
Awesome.
they can log in, see the videos. You guys will be like listed as a partner sponsor. And then any emails that I get from that, I'm going to be building that list and just sending it to the brands. So it's a way to like nurture and like say, hey, thanks for joining the summit. We've got this special program right now. Whatever you want to do with it, it's up to you guys.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for that.
So much.
No problem. Thanks for being part of it. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Stay safe out there.
You too, brother.
All right, man. Take care. Bye.